You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS. Whether it's for food, fuel, drinks, or snacks, about half of the U.S. population shops at a convenience store every day. We'll talk about what we see at stores and what the future may hold for our industry.
Well, for those of you that listen regularly, you're used to us describing a weekly podcast. This week, I'm going to call this a potcast. Well, maybe not exactly. We're not quite there in terms of cannabis, but we are going to spend the afternoon talking about CBD, and we've brought in an expert to help us navigate everything from edibles to topicals, who's buying them, how you can bring it into your store, and most importantly, let's try and stay out of the handcuffs, shall we? Welcome to Convenience Matters. I'm Stephanie Sikorski with NACS.
And I'm Erin Pressley with NACS.
And today we have brought in an expert. Certainly I'm not one of them. Erin, we won't get into that, but we are talking about CBD. We've brought in Colleen Lanier here from Hemp Industries Association to break it all down for us.
Great. Well, I'm super interested to know, Colleen, because certainly I get this question asked of me a lot. What's the difference between hemp and CBD? Where does THC fit in? Can you clear all of those words up for us?
I sure hope so. So, you mentioned cannabis opening up the show, and I think it's really important. A lot of people say, we're not talking about cannabis, we're talking about hemp. But hemp actually is cannabis. Cannabis is the genus. Hemp is a subvariety of that genus. And the other ones are marijuana, which is very well known and somewhat controversial, and then ruderalis, which nobody really has ever heard of. Hemp, well, CBD is a constituent of hemp. So it's a molecule, chemical molecule, and it's one of 113 that we know of. So there's 112 more of these cannabinoids. CBD is cannabidiol, and it is a cannabinoid, and it is a constituent of the hemp plant. THC is also a cannabinoid, a tetrahydrocannabinol, and that is a cannabinoid that is known to have a psychosomatic effect when consumed and can provide euphoria. And the hemp plant doesn't have very much THC, and so is not considered to be a plant that can cause a psychosomatic or euphoric experience. And so that is just part of the genetic distinction in terms of cannabinoids between the two different types of cannabis plants. So hemp being higher in CBD and marijuana being higher in THC.
Well, I think that's one of the things that we've been trying to navigate. There's certainly a lot of education, as you know firsthand, that needs to happen, because a lot of people here, certainly when a few months ago we were at NACS show, we had the sessions, as you know, around CBD. We had products there, and there is a lot of confusion around if I eat this, if I put this on, that everything's the same, that all of a sudden there's hallucinations or other. And that's not exactly true.
That is not true. Now, the only thing that really people should be concerned with in consuming they market full spectrum products as being the whole plant products, which would still contain small trace parts, very small parts per million amounts of THC. You're not going to have a euphoric experience. However, if that THC is consumed, it can cause you to fail a drug test. And that really needs to be communicated to consumers, because there are still a lot of consumers out there who have jobs. They cannot, put themselves at risk in that way, but they're being told, hey, this hemp product is not marijuana, so you can safely consume it. Well, not so fast. Because if it is that whole plant full spectrum product, you are risking a little bit of that trace THC in the body, and so that could definitely pop on a drug test.
So you bring up a great point. If I'm a consumer or a retailer even that's looking to get into this space, what should I be aware of from a packaging standpoint? Is there something that helps to identify that? What am I looking for?
Sure. So in terms of choosing a hemp product, I think number one, you've got to know, is this product a full spectrum or whole plant product, or is it a broad spectrum product? And broad spectrum is another marketing term that we often use in our industry to explain that this product contains all of the other parts of the plant, but has no detectable THC. Basically, the THC has been removed. And the reason they want to do that is so they get around this issue of having any detectable THC in the body consuming a hemp product. So you want to know, is this product full spectrum? Is it broad spectrum? Or is it just CBD isolated? And that seems to be where a lot of brands and companies have chosen to, develop a hemp line, is using just the isolated CBD. And there are perhaps some concerns with that too. I think really consumers need to, have some diligence when choosing to consume hemp products generally that are CBD products. Now, hemp food products that come and are derived from the hemp seed, that's a whole different thing, because those are otherwise just not controversial at all and have been legal and on the marketplace for forever. They've never not been. In terms of labeling, I think it comes down to it being identified, just how much CBD or hemp extract is in this product. And sometimes you will find that if it is listed as hemp extract, it may be that whole hemp extract and may not be identifying just specifically how much CBD is in that product, because they're just telling you how much hemp extract is in that product. And so, it comes down to also, are they labeling this as is this a supplement facts panel on this product, or is this a food facts panel on this product, and is that appropriate for this kind of product? It really is difficult, because we're finding that so many people are creating such a plethora of hemp products, from tinctures to capsules to the small little energy shots or chill out shots, as they might be in the case of CBD. And
it really feels like it's in pretty much anything. Like,
sure,
if you can dream it, it can happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think, and some of the challenges certainly for retailers is that at least at the time of this recording, CBD, ingestible CBD, was not really allowable to be sold per FDA guidance. So we know a lot of our retailers are risking a little bit by selling. And so certainly knowing the difference between hemp and CBD and what's allowable and what's not is critical.
And you bring up a really fantastic point, because when the product itself is just marketed as a CBD product, that is what seems to be of the most concern to the FDA. But if it is a hemp product,
right,
and it is identified that this has hemp extract in it, but doesn't necessarily call out CBD at all, that is not really a questionable product to be selling in your retail.
Yep. And who do you find the hemp or CBD consumers are? Do they fit a certain demographic at this point?
Yeah, I'm curious about that too, because I've heard mixed things, right? It's just going to be the millennials and people that just want to use that. And then I've heard others that, no, it's actually an aging population that's consuming.
Right. I've seen this different market data that suggests both. I think that I'm not recalling exactly what the data was from the Natural Products Expo. I mean, they were suggesting that people were going to really love having hemp extract or CBD and chocolates and things like that, which was really interesting. But that, I think, there is more of an age population that's never really interfaced with any kind of cannabis before. And so when they learn that hemp is, devoid of this higher ratio of THC and that it's not going to cause them to have a euphoric experience, but they've been hearing, for however long, oh, cannabis helped me with this or helped me with that, they'll choose to try a hemp product because, they're in their minds, they're thinking, well, I'm not looking to get high, so I'll consume hemp and I'll still get some benefit. And to an extent, that's true because, it's still cannabis and it still has all of those cannabinoids and other benefits that we can see from the cannabis plant generally.
So what are some of those benefits?
Well, so we have an endocannabinoid system in our bodies, and we're just starting to learn about this, and the medical field is just starting to really acknowledge it. But we have CB1 and CB2 receptors throughout our bodies and our organs and our nervous systems and our brains, and the cannabinoids that we consume from the cannabis plant have shown that they can sort of help support that system and plug into receptors that we have. And everyone has a different one. It's not, a magic thing for everybody, because that system in us is unique. But the way cannabis can support that system has been showing people that it can help them get to sleep, that it might help with general aches and pains, that it can help relieve anxiety. And we have to be really careful, because that's another concern that the FDA has, is not making medical claims.
Right.
So while people are having these great experiences consuming these products and then talking about that while they have a particular ailment that is a defined disorder, that is the concern of the FDA. Because if I have cancer, for example, and I decide to consume a very high ratio of CBD whole plant product, and my skin cancer is starting to go away, and I start saying this is helping my cancer, well, that's a claim, and that's not something that really should be put out there. In fact, a lot of companies have received warning letters, and the FDA has gone so far as scrubbing companies' websites to find consumer testimony that if the consumer testimony makes a claim, then they receive a warning letter as well and would be required to remove all of that, which is really difficult given even social media, because you have to monitor what people say about the products. And in terms of the science, I think by virtue of legalization, we will start to see the science back a lot of the claims that have been coming out from people's experiences. But again, going back to, if each of us have our own unique endocannabinoid system, and all systems combined, then it may not be fair to say, well, this does this because of my experience.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a retailer that's interested in, navigating this space and looking at bringing something in, what advice, because we just talked about the legalities of it, we talked about the benefits and just consumers' curiosity, but where do you start? Or what's your recommendation for someone that's thinking about entering this space?
You mean that's thinking about
bringing that in,
bringing
as a
it into
product.
the product?
Exactly.
Yeah, sure. So, it really is incumbent on that buyer or whomever is making that decision for the retailer to put some due diligence in vetting the supply chain of that product. And that is, kind of unfortunate, but at this point, because it's unregulated, it absolutely has to be done. Consumer safety is number one. And so where that's concerned, I think looking to see, are there self-regulatory organizations out there that are supporting brands getting the type of certifications or having the audits completed that need to be had in order to prove and authenticate that they do have a proper and correct and safe process for their supply chain and through their process and manufacturing. And we right now have an organization that has come up. It's been in the development for the last probably 3 years, but is now known as the U.S. Hemp Authority. And they provide a certification seal. And that certification seal can really help when people are going to purchase a product. If they see that U.S. Hemp Authority certification seal on a product, that indicates that that product has gone through the process of having its supply chain audited from the grow all the way through manufacturing, so that it is, at minimum, has followed good agricultural practices and is manufactured with current good manufacturing
Now, is that
practices.
something that you would see on a label as an example?
Yes, absolutely. It's an orange seal. It's got an H for hemp, and it says a U.S. Hemp Authority. And that's just one example of one of our industry's efforts to say, hey, brands will be audited by a third-party auditor and make sure that they are compliant in terms of this whole supply chain to the finished product. And so that's something we want to help get off the ground so that we can help support buyers and retailers from having to do so much work to verify that the product that they're putting on their shelves is a good product to carry.
But I was going to ask, if and when it's allowable for retailers to sell products with CBD in it, how critical are the store-level staff really in helping to educate consumers about the products that they're buying?
I think that is absolutely critical, and that's what I'm hearing a lot from people who own retail franchises is my staff needs education, and the consumers need to be educated as well. How can we do it? And I think that, that's something that we as a trade association could probably, we'd love to put it together, quite frankly, so that we can support this. I mean, we want hemp to have an equal opportunity in the retail marketplace. We want hemp to be mainstream. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is if people are able to talk about what it is from that, clerk level down to a consumer coming in, learning perhaps at that moment before the point of purchase. And that is really important. So I think it's critical.
Great.
Yeah, and I was just thinking in terms of, we do a lot of toolkits for our retailers and thinking about the options, and certainly training from that perspective wasn't even something that I was thinking about. And that probably is a sort of first step, like if you're not quite sure where to go, that would be beneficial.
Yeah, get educated. So switching gears a little bit, what's the weirdest thing you've seen CBD or hemp in? I'm intrigued because I feel like it's everywhere. I've seen it in drinks and food and lotion and spray and...
Well, are you ready for this, ladies?
Yeah, lay it on us.
Vaginal lube.
Really?
No words.
That's fabulous. I'm not surprised, though.
All right. Well,
Well, so clearly I think, that product aside, which I know health and beauty care products don't always sell spectacularly in convenience stores. But do you think there's a role for CBD and hemp products in convenience stores, once they're able to sell it more widely?
For sure. I think it's a fantastic thing to have in the C-stores because people come into C-stores. Sometimes they're looking for, a product that could provide them relaxation or a pick-me-up or whatever it is. And I think CBD has the potential to do that for folks. And so why not? And particularly because... the World Health Organization said it's not habit forming, it's not addictive.
Yep.
And as far as they know for now, it's not a public health concern. So if it's not a public health concern, why not? I guess that's it. I've heard some concerns that there's not been enough time and testing, particularly for changing that chemical makeup of the hemp extract. So not talking about full spectrum, but talking about broad spectrum and especially isolate. Is there going to come out information that suggests that is not necessarily good for people? And that is also what the FDA wants to know. And that is why this is very difficult as well, because we quite frankly don't know. And consumers need to be aware of that too.
So I don't think we'd be doing our due diligence as a trade association that's always trying to think beyond, what's tomorrow, but really around the corner. So when we ask that of you for CBD, is CBD here to stay? And also what's next? Like, where do you predict, 5 years from now, we bring you back on, what are we talking about?
Well, I've we mentioned that there are 112 other cannabinoids, not just CBD. I think that the time will come and the science will rally around other cannabinoids and probably identify what their potential benefits are. And, this may not be a conversation that's just about CBD. It may be a more broad conversation about cannabinoids, plural, and what a plethora of them do, and, what many of them do, including THC, which I suspect, maybe not in 5 years, but I don't know, maybe sooner than that. I mean, federal legalization seems to be inching more and more and more towards.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, the conversations are out there, which is why I was so curious about, we're talking about this. And even when we talked about it among our leadership team just a few short months ago, we were, are we ready for this? Even talking about CBD, and you fast forward a few months, it's amazing just the conversations and where we've been able to go from there. So I am curious. I do think 5 years from now will look different. It'll be interesting to see when we touch base with you again.
Mm-hmm. Right on. Well, it's been 5 years since we legalized hemp for research purposes in the Farm Bill in 2014, and things are dramatically different since that time. So I'm looking forward to see where we are for sure in another 5.
Yep. Great. For more information on CBD and the legalities of selling it in your store, visit the NACS website at convenience.org/CBD for our fact sheet, and to find out information about the retailer training program that we discussed on this week's episode. Thanks for listening to Convenience Matters.
Convenience Matters is brought to you by NACS and produced in partnership with Human Factor. For more information, visit convenience.org.